Hey everyone, Tactics here with yet another plus 20 walkthrough for Season 3 of Dragonflight, where in this video, we're going to be going to the Caster Heavy Warlords of Draenor dungeon, the Everbloom. I'll be going over the route that we used here in this video, just some general strategy for the various pulls, the bosses, and then some other tips and tricks that will hopefully help you get your Keystone Hero achievement and the dungeon portal. In the future, I'm also going to be doing similar walkthrough videos for like 0.1% title level keys, and kind of show you the difference between how the dungeon plays out on those very high key levels. So if that sounds interesting to you, something you want to see, make sure you do subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Otherwise, let's get into it here, where of course, as always, big pull off the top here. Make sure you get a kick in on that first initial naturalist here. We group up everything here with the flowers. Notably, this flower debuff, as it stacks up, is going to be pretty scary for most tank specs, so having a way to clear it is very useful. As a paladin here, Freedom is very strong. Monks have Tiger's Lust, that kind of thing. So anything you have in your group that's able to kind of clear the stacks of that damage amp is very beneficial, because of course it's a general damage amp, right? So any other thing in the pack is going to be dealing additional damage to you. So it's very important, if you are pulling multiple packs of these dread petals, that you do have a way to actually clear that debuff off of yourself. So you me clearing around 7 to 8 stacks there. Otherwise, bursting, nice and spooky, of course. Perfect chain of bursting there. Don't recommend doing that. I think in this run, we also accidentally pull Gnarl Root. So if you ever do that, we'll show you how to deal with that guy. We're going to be going here, petals. Usually we would pull these petals across and into this pack across from us. Yeah, I think we accidentally pull Gnarl over here. So what we do here is we stack up, basically, and this is going to cluster all of our roots on top of each other, which makes them relatively easy to cleave down. See how fast we cleared those down? And then you can just move out of these and just decide, you know, why not? We're just going to chain them into the next pull anyways. You know, might as well. Again, group up here. Boom, all the roots spawn relatively close to us. And if it wasn't for Entangling Week, we'd probably be using some of our root breaks on that as well. So this boss actually isn't terribly hard to deal with, or the mini boss rather, but it does have that additional restriction of you do have to either have a root break available or play relatively close to the boss. And even then, potentially on higher fortified keys, not sure how that root health scales, so might not be the play, but it was not intentional in this route, but that's just how you would deal with them. There is a neat kind of LOS spot you can play in this room. So around this corner, you can actually go around this little hill here, and technically you can pull as many of these mobs as you can. The real issue is, of course, grouping up, because every pack has 2 naturalists, so if you don't have grips or something like that, the only way to actually group them up is that LOS spot. So my guess, when you get into the 0.1% title level keys, you're going to see us use this LOS spot over here. But until then, we just kind of pull packs together. At some point, you have to pull the patrol here. So I had Divine Toll available, so I just did it immediately, since they're relatively close to this pack. And just keeping kicks up on the Dancing Thorns when possible, stops on those choking vines, and the Mender cast as well. And this room is pretty straightforward here, so you can fast forward to the boss. Where, oh, actually, you know what? I know what happens here. So our healer, slight miscommunication, they actually went to go get some flowers to pull onto the boss here, and I pulled the boss not realizing they were gone, and our healer's not in the room. So I believe we just actually wipe on this boss instantly and run back to it. And then I go up here and pull these flowers. Not sure this is actually good, by the way. Just did it because why not? Get some mobs on here, pull Wither Bark all the way across the room, face the Parched Gasp on the edge here. And notably, again, I was very careful. I used Freedom before that Parched Gas come out to make sure to clear my damage amp stacks for that initial tank buster. I'm not going to have stacks here, and you're going to see I bubble taunt to deal with that and get paints up through the bubble taunt. Very useful. But that's just something to be careful of if you are ever pulling dread petals onto this boss, which is why I'm not 100% sure you would do it for most tank specs. But otherwise, you can see here the group is just generally kind of fanned out. We have a few drops here of these swirlies, and basically we're just going to nuke the boss here, potentially do a little bit of damage to any of these globules that aren't going to eat one of these roots, but otherwise here, pure damage into the boss. Notably, no one's really putting a lot of focus into these unchecked growth ads, because as long as the tank actually picks them up, they don't really do anything, right? They just kind of hit the tank. And so, you know, we're going to do our best here and kill this globule, because there was no path. We're starting to lose, the amount of roots we have because they're actually getting used up here. So you can see with the yellow arrow, that's a player targeted. We're just making sure to kind of generally spread it out here just to extend this damage amp phase as long as possible. And you can see here, like, the longer you extend this damage amp phase, the less this boss really does. But in general, pretty straightforward boss fight, honestly, here. Yes, pulling up the root because we pulled gnarl root unintentionally, trying to figure out where to solve it. Okay. There we are, jumping down, do a big pull here, grabbing some dread petals with double berserker, I believe. Yeah, double berserker, A-bomb. And so berserkers are, so there was a flower behind us basically you could stand on. You can't do it anymore. It's hotfixed with all the other leap hotfixes that have happened this past week. So this kind of mean ranging to be careful. You can see in general here, they do a little bit of a spread here. And for some reason, it seems like berserkers, especially two berserkers, they tend to kind of want to go towards similar players. I'm not sure. I don't believe it's a max range thing. See there, that one goes to two different players, I think. It's kind of hard to tell, and we had someone further out, so it just seems to be random ranged. It's a little weird that they pretty often go to similar targets, but either way, range, just gonna have an eye on that timer of the ability. The other weird thing, which you actually just saw happen just in right there, so if the mob is CC'd in the pack for some reason, when the timer crosses, they don't jump. I don't know why, but that is something we've noticed. So you can actually pre-stun a berserker right now close to the timer of their jump. And as long as the stun lasts over the timer of their jump coming off CD, for some reason they won't jump. Little weird tech. I assume, it'll get hotfixed because it seems like weird behavior. So don't rely on that, but it is something that currently works. I accidentally pull something extra here along the edges. So a couple of these mobs aren't meant to be in here, namely triple berserkers in this pack now. Not intentional. Most of these pulls are designed to only have two because they can kind of wombo combo your ranged, especially if they're not on a synced up timer, right? Look at their timers here. They're going to chain go. And because of that, you're probably going to see some of our range start to die here. So be careful. Try and pull berserkers at the same time and try and never pull more than two berserkers at once here. And the other thing we're not really using, you can do stops midair as well. Obviously Ursul's is the king of this. We don't have a druid, so you can't do that. But there are other things, like namely AoE blinds, in-cap roar, blinding light, blind itself when it's an AoE stop, that kind of thing. Can be pretty good at this. Very kind of similar to the War Spears back in Season 1, if you guys remember stopping War Spears midair and Noku defensive. Similar idea there. So keep that in mind. Stop midair, or like I said, that stun thing that kind of works, which is weird. But again, maybe hotfixed. Otherwise, though, I believe we are now going to skip these last couple mobs. So that's kind of what Naru let us do. Let us skip this patrol here and the pack up here. So 2 abominations total, which is kind of nice. But anyways, going into this boss here. This boss I know is something a lot of pugs have struggled on. So the strategy that seems to be the easiest, I think, for pugs to handle is to just kill one of these casters ASAP. I recommend, if you're doing this strategy, to hit Earthshaper. Notice we have Bloodlust as well and cooldowns going into this boss. So we're going to absolutely nuke the heck out of Earthshaper here right off the bat, making sure we get kicks on them as well, because of course on pull always Earthshaper's the interruptible one, whereas Life Warden is the one just channeling and not interruptible. So immediately drag over, pop Lust, pop all cooldowns, and we're killing Earthshaper here, getting as many kicks as possible. Other note, there is a safe spot for the tank charge here. So basically there's a vine behind me. And something you can do is you can actually move around this vine to LOS it, and that would actually stop both this charge damage from happening and any swirlies from spawning. Now, this is like primo going to be hotfixed, like 100% money back guaranteed going to be hotfixed. I don't do it in this video, and I'm not too concerned about showing you guys because it's getting hotfixed for sure. There's no way it doesn't. There's Twitch clips and stuff hanging around of people doing it. It seems to be a little bit finicky on hitbox size, so you might have to use a toy to change your hitbox, which is pretty common for some weird Mythic Plus shenanigans. If it stays in, I'll probably highlight it in my 0.1% title route video, but for now, I wouldn't worry about it. Like I said, keeping damage on the Earthshaper here. And so what's going to happen most likely here is the Earthshaper is going to start their channel, and this guy's going to start spam casting, and what you're going to see is just the DPS not swap. I'm going to start getting kicks a little bit on Life Warden just to reduce the damage here a little bit. I dumped some kicks there, but you can see the DPS is still focusing Earthshaper here. Delu damage, you could get a little more cleave with Delu over there, but the boss is already almost dead, and so I value reducing the raid damage. And now that one of the casters is dead, the overall party damage you're taking is going to be significantly lower, because basically as long as one is dead, the other one, it'll never cast its channel again. Basically, we got the channel to start right before we killed the old one, so it didn't continue spam casting. But you're going to see, because there's only one left alive, it's going to just continue to spam cast now as soon as it's done this channel. So we just kind of dump kicks into it, but you don't have this passive ticking AoE damage to worry about, which makes the fight significantly easier, because these kicks are not too dangerous, right? You're going to see at some point we're going to run out of kicks probably, and kicks are going to go out here. And if you look at the actual damage this is doing, it's not actually a ton, especially because there's no other damage going out in the entire fight. So once you kill a boss, it becomes so much easier. As a tank here, the thing you're worried about is, of course, the noxious charge. Always make sure you have kind of something, even if it's small, running for those actual charges. You notice I didn't consecrate there because of my set bonus. I didn't want to drop consecrate, but I had the 10% DR from the set bonus up and ready, so not a big deal. But yeah, in general, you're going to want to have something up for every charge, because, you know, even there through Sentinel, right, it dealt like 25% of my HP, so that's a big DR I had up. Still hit pretty hard, especially if there's other damage going out. But again, benefit here, there isn't a ton of other damage going out because we killed the mage already. So relatively easy pug strat, probably recommended. Do want to save lust for this boss because of that. Though, moving up here, we now have the casters. Again, we have a prop paladin in the group, right? So what this allows us to do is pull a lot of these casters all at once. Oh, is this going to be a weird bounce? No, because this is just a range kick in. And then you're going to see, basically, I'm going to solo the Pyromancer kicks here. Everyone else is going to focus on the Ice Guy kicks. Actually, the Ice Guy died, right? Oh, no, he's still there. He's star. There it is. They're going to get Ice Guy kicks. I'm soloing the Pyromancer, prop paladin things. And then once one of them dies, we'll add in the Arcane guy, and it'll be the same deal. And it's similar for the triple pull here, so I'll fast forward to that because it's less interesting. We're just, yeah, Arcanomancer, we're going to pull in a bunch of assistants as well. Basically, kill assistants, kill assistants. Notably with space here, I haven't pulled the assistants over here because it gives us something to do during the RP after this boss. And we're not worried about using the space up there. So because we don't need the space up there to do this boss itself, which again, another hard boss, I'll show you our strategy for it. We don't clear that extra space. This pull, super tough. Again, though, as a prop paladin, makes life a little bit easier. So you're going to see off the top here, we save kicks because I am going to Divine Toll to get as many as I can off the bat. And then I am solo kicking the Pyromancer. Pyro is still the most dangerous one because, one, its interrupt is the hardest, and two, its ultimate deals that random damage, which, you know, isn't avoidable, right? So definitely the hardest to deal with. Definitely recommend focusing the Pyro. And so because I get guaranteed kicks, I will kick all the Pyro kicks. We'll have the next kicks going into the actual, the Ice Collar here is, I believe, the preferred one because Ice and Arcane was actually nerfed to deal the same damage as Ice. So now Ice and Arcane deal the same amount of damage, but the difference is Frost will slow you, right? So these Frost bolts, when they go off, they put a magic slow on you. And especially on an Entangling week, not ideal. So what I probably would recommend is having your kick rotation with a prop paladin obviously being Frost second. So always kick Pyro, kick Frost secondarily, and then leave Arcanes up until, you know, there's nothing else to kick, basically, because that's the least scary hit now. Big thing though, as long as you don't let, you know, two go into the same person, and you don't let a Pyro go off, you're good. Getting rid of that Pyro gets rid of a lot of that random damage, which is really useful, and then really doesn't matter too much who you kill next. Again, as a paladin here, I'm just kind of throwing kicks out. Make sure you do have a range out for that spatial disruption, baiting it. It goes on the furthest player within range, and that is also kind of ties into a boss fight here. So the biggest thing you're worried about here is the overlap, specifically the Arcane overlaps with either of the other colors. So what you're going to see here is we're going to be playing diagonally from our baiter. So we have our baiter playing in this quadrant. Basically, think of this room as like a big rectangle, right? Boom, big rectangle here. Our baiter is playing in one quadrant, and we want to play in the quadrant directly diagonal from them, as this allows us to dodge in either direction here, like left on my screen or straight forward on my screen, out of the whatever mechanic, the fire or the ice mechanic, And when the pull actually goes off, we'll be out of the mechanic and be pulled slightly towards it, or we'll be out of the mechanic and be pulled slightly towards it. So just to show you how this works, obviously initially there's not too much going on here. Fire stuff, again, random damage from the fire is pretty scary, keep that in mind. Next is fire and ice. Again, not really too much to show here, just dodge out of it in whatever direction. Here is ice and arcane. So actually, yeah, we had our baiter die there. I think he got hit by a puddle, but we have another mage jump out there. He's going to be baiting. So we know he's going to get hit because he's the furthest player now. And so we're diagonal. So this is ice and arcane. Boom, ice, ice. We dodge out. Now, based on our positioning, it was just better to do this. Again, this was kind of a last-minute swap because of that death, so it's not ideal, yeah, positioning-wise, but hopefully the next one will be. And so what we're going to see here is this was a little closer than we wanted, so it's going to pull us earlier than we wanted. And we had entangling overlap. That's beautiful, too, actually. That's sick. So we dodge out, and basically, boom, get pulled towards it. So again, that's a little sketchier, but that's still the idea. No one got frozen. This next one is going to be better because we actually prepared in time. Yeah, there we go. So look, watch this one, basically. You're going to see the fire come out. There's the arcane. And look at how much time you have. You're waiting, you're waiting, you're waiting. We didn't have to move at all even. Then you're pulled. So the idea here is you're so far away from the actual boss in terms of your baiting with the arcane. Don't be too far though. Don't outrange the boss. Otherwise it goes in melee. But you're so far away, you get to avoid the fire or the ice first. And then you get pulled through ideally nothing. So here was just we got lucky with with fire puddle baits. Let's fast forward a little bit here. Here it comes. So this is another ice and arcane one coming up here. Again, look how far the mage is over on my screen top right. This is going to buy you so much time. Here it comes. Boom. It shoots out. And now we dodge to the right here. And we AFK, get pulled. Nothing. Actually, nothing. I think he actually got hit there. Yeah. So it is somewhat dangerous for the baiter themselves. But, something to keep in mind there because they get pulled back into the ability they baited if they bait the ice. And in general, though, like with this, look, I mean, we just got another lucky fire, so not too much to show there, but you have so much time to actually move and avoid and position yourself so that you don't get sucked into a bad position, and that's kind of the idea of this diagonal baiting here. But boss goes down. And as you can see, same with even with this overlap actually. So just showing you this overlap, right? Because in terms of where these abilities are getting baited, they're getting baited here and diagonal from you. So on this ice one, again, you could easily dodge here or dodge this way and be completely safe from these abilities. So that's something to note as well there. But yeah, killing this stuff now while this RP is triggering, as you see, 25 seconds of RP. Might be able to get another decent pull somewhere later on to that spot. For the RP, we'll see. But they're going into the final boss here, Yalnu. And this is where, there's a lot of misunderstanding with how this ability works. This is raid damage, right? This is a raid damage ability. It deals a big chunk. You see here on a 20 Tyrant, it's like 50% of people's health in a bunch of cases. You will just get one shot if you're in the cone. So that's the difference. You are still taking damage here. And where this becomes an issue is this Verdant Eruption cast here. So this spawns the ad. And while the ad is alive, it deals ticking damage. And so that overlap, there's one colossal blow that happens every time the ad is up. That is where you are most scared. That is where you would pop a personal, a raid cooldown, something like that, just to make sure you don't get wombo comboed by this overlap. So you're going to see here, right? This is up doing constant damage. Here's the blow. And you're not going to notice it too much here because we are actually, playing it correctly. But this is where you would be scared, right? And obviously, if this ad lives too long, you're also kind of scared as well. Because what you really want to make sure is that it's dead before this cast ends. Because he does another colossal blow at the end of this cast right here, right? So boom. If there's still the ad alive, that means you've doubled the amount of scary colossal blows. And you don't want that, right? So be careful. Make sure you kill that ad relatively quickly. Not to mention, these mobs don't channel into the boss, and while there's no indicator here, the boss is taking 300%, I believe, more damage when this mob is channeling into it. It's in the dungeon journal. You can see it there, and you can see it from the DPS meters too. These numbers are way too big for not a damage amp to exist. So damage amp only exists when the ad is dead. So killing the ad faster means you get more time of that massive damage amp. So make sure you do hard swap to it as well. Other than that, this boss is just kind of rinse and repeat. if you have something, you're gonna see high keys probably using something on every single colossal blow, right? Just because it's gonna get out of hand relatively quickly. But if you're ever low health going into colossal blow, make sure you personal. Otherwise, again, it's just focusing the ad. The Genesis flowers honestly aren't even too big a deal if you don't step on them all. They just have a cast that needs to be kicked or stopped even. But you can just have your tank pick them up. And bring them under the boss here. Again, look how much taking damage going out. That was a much scarier blow, right? This one here, we're already a little low taking from the taking damage, and people almost dying, etc. So that's a much better example, I guess, of how scary that can be, especially on higher key levels. So be aware of that overlapping damage. Otherwise, like I said, this boss is straightforward. It's really that one overlap. So there we have it, guys. Plus 20 Everbloom hopefully helps you guys out. If it does, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like it, including, like I've mentioned multiple times, those 0.1% title level key kind of walkthrough videos showing those really cool high key techs. I've got mythic raid boss guides as well if you want to check those out, and of course much more content as we get the War Within beta. Super excited for that. If you have any questions about this dungeon, please drop those down in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them, and you can always stop by my Twitch channel and ask me over there at Tactics. I stream all my key pushing, all my mythic progression over there, so make sure you stop by and say hi. Of course, gotta say thank you to all my Patreon supporters. It really does mean a lot, guys. Really, truly, thank you so much. Otherwise, thanks everyone so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.